Hey, thanks everybody for joining us today, Live Music Nation. I'm your host, Jake Gill. Today we're with Ross Marks from Creative Media Institute. You guys are responsible for a number of events. Ross, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Ross, give me a background on you. Where'd you grow up? Talk a little bit about your career and your current position with Creative Media.
Sure. I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, a little town called Highland Park, Illinois, and was born and raised there, and then went to college in Los Angeles. Got my master's degree from the American Film Institute as a director. Directed a few films, had a film premiere at Sundance called Homage, then had another one premiere at Sundance called The Twilight of the Golds. Most recently, I moved to New Mexico in 2007 to teach at the Creative Media Institute at New Mexico State University, where I am a assistant professor now. And my most recent film was Walking with Herb, starring Edward James Olmos and George Lopez. That came out last year, April of 21. And I am also the executive director and founder of the Las Cruces International Film Festival, which is coming up this April 12th to 16th, 2023. And our special guest this year, our Outstanding Achievement Entertainment Award winner, is going to be Giancarlo Esposito from Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul.
Very cool, very cool. So I know that New Mexico had some of the tightest restrictions with COVID. This is your first year getting to put this festival back on, right?
Actually, we were in person last year. So this
Good.
is our second year back. Yeah. In 2020, we were shut down and we're virtual and established a film festival channel where film fans could watch our movies that we selected virtually. But then in 21, in 2021 we were virtual. In 22 we were back in person, and then this year we'll be live and in person.
Very good. Ross, when people come to a film festival, what do they experience? What do they see? What do they feel? What's that environment look like?
We're a 5-day event. We begin on a Wednesday, April 12th, and ends on Sunday, April 16th. So we have 5 days of screenings from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. We screen about 110 films from 20 different countries. We have narrative feature films, narrative short films, full-length documentaries, short documentaries, animation, music videos, student films, local films. So a little bit of everything for every film fan. And then we bring in a great slate of guests. In the past, we've had William H. Macy, Brendan Fraser, Richard Dreyfuss, Sybil Shepherd, Edward James Olmos, George Lopez, Danny Trejo. And this year, we've already announced Giancarlo Esposito. And we will have more guests on tap that we'll be announcing shortly. So part of what we do is we try to bring in our little town here in Las Cruces, New Mexico, about 100,000 people. We try to bring a taste of Hollywood or Sundance of the Southwest, as we call ourselves.
Now, what is it for you? What's the importance behind this event for you and your constituents?
So for me, I'm a filmmaker. I've made about 5 feature films now and probably 12 short films. I've won awards at Sundance, at Cleveland, and Chicago. I've had film screen at Cannes and Berlin. So personally, I've been to 60 different film festivals as a filmmaker. And I wanted to create that experience for other filmmakers, the great experience of being at a film festival. One of the things that I've seen in my career, which started in the 90s, is the independent filmmaker is kind of getting squeezed out a little bit. So film festivals like Sundance, Tribeca, Toronto, Telluride, they are screening more and more studio films with big name actors. That wasn't the case when I started in the 90s. You could go to Sundance with a film without distribution, without a big name actor, and get into Sundance. That's not the case today. Today, Sundance has become a studio release platform. Toronto's a studio, you see big studios releasing their films at these festivals that really once upon a time were independent film festivals, and then they're not anymore. So I was frustrated with that, and so I started our own festival for independent filmmakers. So one of the criteria for our films is you can't have distribution, and it has to be an independent film. And so the independent filmmaker can come to Las Cruces, screen their film in front of audiences that really appreciate what they're doing, network with other filmmakers, producers, writers, directors, actors, and kind of what Sundance was in the 90s is what we're doing in 2023.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. I think that anybody that steps out of the box and gets an opportunity to give back to their community, of course, is let me ask you two questions, because I'm in live events. I'm just in a different form. I'm in live music and live entertainment. What is the process like for a director? How much of that in the actual movie making process, how much of that time are you actually in direct contact with your people and community? How much of that time is spent alone? How much of that time in the planning process and the editing? Give me a percent, because I get the feeling that everybody's busy doing their own thing, and that necessarily that community doesn't get a lot of time to spend together.
So one of the things that I love about directing movies as a filmmaker is the collaborative nature of the process. Film is the ultimate collaborative medium. You're working with a number of really talented people. This last film that I did, Walking with Herb, we had a crew of 68. We had a 32-day shoot. So the actual production is the part when you have all these warm bodies working together, collaborating, pulling in the same direction. And it's the director's job to get everybody on the same page, working for a single vision. When you get to the post-production process, it gets a little bit more isolating, because it's really just you and an editor. So the director and the editor, two people in a dark room, working for months at a time, trying to get the piece finished. And the same, it's very similar to the writing process too, right? Because I'm also a writer. I've written several screenplays, of which I've directed. And that writing process is very solitary. It's very lonely. It's you alone in a vacuum, at your computer and typing away, trying to create the story. And then the editing process is really similar to the writing process. In fact, when you edit a film, it's the final rewrite of the script.
Yeah.
And really what was described to me once, the filmmaking process was described to me as the screenwriter writes a great script, the director screws it up in production, and then the editor tries to fix it in post-production and return it to the original script.
Oh, that's a fantastic way of looking at it. How important, because so I'm a music guy, how important is the soundtrack? How important are those? That's my first question. And then number two, where do you find that music at?
So music really makes or breaks a movie. It's all the difference in the world. And one of the things that I do as a director is during the post-production process, of course, you don't have your final score until you're picture locked. Once you're picture locked and you're done editing, then the composer comes in and writes the score. But I like to edit to a temp track, because music makes such a big difference. I also love the music montage. I'm just a big fan of the marriage of the moving image and a beautiful song. And I think nothing is more powerful in cinema than that combination. So music can, of course, guide the audience. It can make them feel happy. It can make them feel sad, make them feel upbeat. It can make them scared. So music really guides the audience and helps the director create mood and emotion, which is really the director's job. They're trying to create a mood and get an emotion from the audience, make the audience laugh, try and scare them, make them happy. So whatever it is, music really is critical in that process for a director in trying to create mood and emotion for an audience.
No, that's fantastic. I love to hear that, because it's not a side of things that I get to be involved in as I go through there. Ross, couple fun questions. Best concert you've ever seen in your entire life?
So for me, when I was growing up in the Chicago area, I had the chance to see Prince with the Purple Rain tour in Chicago. I think it was 1984, I believe. So seeing Prince in concert doing his Purple Rain was the best live concert I've been to. I've been to some good ones, but that one was amazing.
All right, now I'm going to change this last question for you. Dead or alive, you could bring one artist back to compose the music for your next film. Who would you bring?
Well, let's see. My next film is a feel-good Christmas movie. So I would have to say I'd probably want to bring in a classical composer who can really work. And this last film I did, Walking with Herb, we had an orchestra, which was really unusual. We hired a 80-piece orchestra from Croatia and a beautiful composer named Ariel Marks. But I'd say I'd probably want to bring one of the great composers, right? Like Mozart or Tchaikovsky or Wagner. That would probably be, it doesn't get any better than that.
That's beautiful, beautiful. Ross, how do people find out more about Creative Media Institute?
So the Creative Media Institute, New Mexico State University, has a website, cmi.nmsu.edu. If you want to learn more about the Las Cruces International Film Festival, we also have a website. You can buy tickets and learn more about the festival at lascrucesfilmfest.com. Of course, as I said, our event's April 12th to the 16th, and you can buy tickets online now.
That's perfect. Thank you so much for being on. I learned a ton. I appreciate it, Ross.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate your giving us a little shout out.
You're welcome.
Well, baby, I'm